Hi everyone, welcome to CF Benchmark's Index Bytes. I'm Thomas Erdösi, Head of Product, and today I'm joined by Timo Engelbertz from our product team. Timo, we just launched the CF Benchmark's xStocks product suite, a regulated benchmark family and a corporate action data feed built for tokenized equities. Before we get into the products, can you give the audience a quick sense of what xStocks are and why this market needs dedicated infrastructure?
Sure. An xStock is an on-chain token that gives holders economic exposure to a real stock or ETF like Nvidia, Tesla, or SPY. And each token is fully backed one for one by the corresponding underlying asset held in custody. And the market has two layers. There's a primary market where the issuer of xStocks creates and redeems tokens against the underlying asset. And there's a secondary market where those tokens can trade freely across exchanges and DeFi without users needing to interact with the xStocks issuer. And holders get price and dividend exposure, but they are not direct shareholders and do not receive shareholder rights. And because xStocks are on-chain, they are transferable, fractional, and composable. For example, holders can borrow against their xStocks, or they can earn by providing liquidity.
Right, so it's a new market sitting between TradFi exposure and crypto-native trading. That's where CF Benchmarks comes in. Let's start with the benchmark side. Why does a tokenized version of, say, Apple stock need its own index? Apple already has a price.
That's right, but xStocks do not trade on the same venues as the underlying shares. They trade on Kraken and a growing set of centralized exchanges. So if you need a regulated reference price for an xStock, for example, to power a perpetual futures market, you need a benchmark based on xStocks trading venues and not the traditional cash equity market. And that is what xStocks indices provide. We have around 100 live today, and the methodology follows our proven standard real-time benchmark design, where we take live order books from approved xStocks venues, remove unreliable data, and normalize venue conventions to then combine the clean liquidity into one market view, producing a price every second.
And we have two types of xStocks real-time benchmarks, price return and total return. Can you explain the difference, please?
Of course. So different venues handle corporate actions differently. Take a dividend as an example. Once a stock trades without the right to receive the dividend, its price usually drops by roughly the dividend amount. And some xStock venues reflect that directly in the price, while others do not. And what we do is we normalize those differences and publish two clean versions. Price return, which follows the standardized price-only path, and total return, which absorbs corporate action effects into a continuous return path. And depending on the product, xStock market operators may need one or the other version.
Okay. Now, you already mentioned corporate actions. This is the part of xStocks people underestimate because in TradFi, a dividend or a split is mostly a back office event. In a tokenized market, it's a market mechanic. Walk us through why.
Yeah, so xStocks are rebasing tokens. They use a multiplier to keep balances aligned with the shares held in custody. And there are three numbers. First, the raw balance, which is the fixed on-chain amount in the wallet. This only changes when tokens are minted, burned, or transferred. Second, the multiplier, which tells the system how much each raw unit currently represents. And it changes when corporate actions happen, like dividends or stock splits. And third, the displayed token balance, which is what the user sees and interacts with. It's the raw balance times the multiplier. So the raw balance can stay the same, while the displayed token balance adjusts automatically and keeps the holder exposure aligned with the underlying shares. For example, when a dividend is paid, the issuer receives cash on the shares held in custody. And instead of paying it out on-chain, the issuer reinvests it into more shares. Custody then holds more shares, which increases the multiplier and therefore adjusts every holder's token balance proportionally.
And that's where it gets interesting for downstream products. So take a perpetual futures instrument, for example. A perp on an xStock is a synthetic price return instrument. It tracks the spot price and it doesn't rebase. So when a dividend hits and the spot price drops, the long takes a loss with no offsetting credit. The short then profits. But without an explicit fix, a trader can hold the xStock token and short the perp every dividend for free profit. So every venue would have to figure that out for themselves. That's the gap our corporate actions data feed fills.
Right. What we do is we classify corporate actions into 3 categories: cash flow, structural, and termination. And for each category, we publish a standardized output. For a dividend, we publish a per token cash amount that the venue credits to long holders at the effective time through the funding mechanism. For a split, we publish a scale factor to rescale open positions. And for a termination, we publish a settlement price. So in short, we normalize corporate actions into one unified feed and provide downstream users with a clear playbook for how to handle each event in their specific use case.
Stepping back, what does the suite actually unlock for the xStocks market?
Yeah, 2 things matter here. First, the indices give the market a regulated reference layer for valuation and settlement, and that layer is already powering Kraken futures today. And second, the corporate action data feed turns corporate action handling from a venue-by-venue problem into shared, standardized infrastructure. The perp exchange, lending protocol, and options venue or a treasury desk, they can all consume the same feed and apply it based on their own product needs. And together, they form the first regulated benchmark suite and corporate actions feed for tokenized equities, a layer venues building on xStocks can rely on so they can focus on their product instead of building the infrastructure themselves.
Thanks, Timo. That's a great overview.
Thanks, Thomas.
So that's the launch. xStocks indices and the corporate action data feed both live now, bringing regulated benchmark pricing and standardized corporate action handling to tokenized equities. To learn more, head to cfbenchmarks.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on CF Benchmarks Index Bytes.